Everybody on YouTube, we thank you for tuning in, as well as those who are on Facebook Live. We thank you for tuning in also as well. We got a very, very, very powerful lesson for you tonight. We're going to discuss some things that has not been really discussed on the Truth Hour before, or on many Bible mediums when it comes to pointing out where the children of Israel are. We're going to show you that those who call themselves Hispanic, or who are called Hispanic, those who go by the name of Cortez or Perez or Rodriguez and all those names that end with EZ, we're going to show you that that's by way of our Israelite family, brothers and sisters. We're going to pull out some commentary on that. But first, we're going to go ahead and go to the beginning. Now, when we want to find out where the children of Israel are today, what God's people chosen are today, we got to find out first who they are. Again, we got to find out first who they are, brothers and sisters. Who are the children of Israel? What did it say? What type of condition they would be in? Let's first go back to the genealogy of the three of Noah's sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and let's find out which ones the children of Israel go through. But before I even find out which one they go through, let's go ahead and do an elimination process. Again, let's go ahead and do an elimination process. So turn your Bibles to Genesis, the 10th chapter, and let's find out who's not a member of the children of Israel first. Brother Joe, Genesis 10 and 1. Genesis 10 and 1.
Now, these are the generations of sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were sons born after the flood.
Now, brothers and sisters, you got three sons. You got Shem, you got Ham, and you got Japheth. Okay? Now we're about to find out who comes from where. Okay? So now let's first start with verses 2 through 5. And I know the names are kind of like tough to pronounce, but they'll get the point, Brother Joe. So don't concentrate so much on getting the names right. There's only one out of here that I really want to pull out and show the people something. So go ahead. Genesis 10, 2 through 5.
The sons of Japheth, Gomorrah, and Magog, and Madal, and Javin, and Tubal, Meshech, and Tarek.
Okay.
And the sons of Gomorrah, Eshek, and Riphath. Riphath, and Tamar.
Okay.
And the son of... Go ahead, brother. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, brother. I'm not going to stop you until after you're done with 5. I just want you to go ahead, breeze through those real quick. They can read them on their own and get the pronunciation right, but I just want to show them something. Go ahead, my brother.
And the son of Javin, Elisar, and Tershim, Kit, and Damim. By these were the isles of Gentiles.
By these were the isles of who, Brother Joe?
Of the Gentiles.
So these were the isles of the Gentiles, brothers and sisters. What Brother Joe just read were all of the seeds of Japheth. Okay? So if you are of the seed of Japheth, then you are a Gentile. You are not a Jew. You are a Gentile if you are of the seed of Japheth. And Brother Joe just read some of the names. He said Gomar, Ashkenaz, Raphi, Togarmah, Javan, Elishish, Tarshish, Kittim, Dodanim. And it says, by these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their land, everyone after his tongue. And the word tongue, brothers and sisters, is not anything fancy. You know, when we read the word tongue in the Bible, oh, he's speaking in tongue. It just means speaking in another language. Tongue means language. It's a metaphor used for language. It says, by these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their land, everyone after his tongue, after their families and their nations. Now, let me show you what the big lie is at right here already. Now, I went into the Wikipedia and looked up the term Ashkenaz Jews. You may have heard that term before, Ashkenaz Jews. In the Wikipedia, it says that the Ashkenazim originated from the Jews who settled along the Rhine River in western Germany and in northern France. How can you be a Jew and you originated from Europe? Didn't we just read in the book of Genesis, the 10th chapter, verses 2 through 5, that these are the isles of the Gentiles? Now, I just read the term Ashkenaz or Ashkenazi Jews, right? How can there be a such thing as an Ashkenazi Jew? Well, let's read back again in Genesis, the 10th chapter. One of the sons of Japheth, and remember, if you are a son of Japheth, you are a Gentile. At verse 3, Genesis 10 and 3, mark it down, read it for yourself. It says, and the sons of Gomer, which is one of the sons of Japheth, it says, was Ashkenaz. Ashkenaz is a grandson of Japheth. And everybody who came out of Japheth is a Gentile. So somebody's lying here, brothers and sisters. Somebody's stealing somebody's identity right here. If you come out of Europe, if you are Caucasian, if you are European, if you are an Ashkenaz descendant, then you are a Gentile. I'm not saying it, I'm reading it after this book called the Bible. The sons of Japheth, Gomer. The sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz. By these were the isles of the Gentiles. So I'm sorry, Ashkenaz Jews, you're not a real Jew. You're not an Israelite. You are a Gentile. And again, I didn't say it. I'm reading it out of this book called the Bible, the Torah, the Old Testament, the law. So brothers and sisters, when you hear the term Ashkenaz Jews, somebody's lying to you. Somebody's misleading you. And I'll say in the words of Malcolm X, you've been had, you've been took, you've been hoodwinked, you've been led astray, you've been run amok, brothers and sisters. Anytime you hear the name Ashkenaz or Ashkenazi, it is a Gentile. Has nothing to do with the children, the chosen people of God, has nothing to do with being an Israelite. Genesis 10. 1 through 5. Read it for yourself. These are the descendants that come off of the European continent. Now, brothers and sisters, for the sake of time, let's do in another elimination, because tonight's topic is the chosen people of God. Where are they now? We know that they're not in Europe because those are the Gentiles. We know they're not Ashkenaz because Ashkenaz come out of the seed of Japheth. Genesis 10, 1 through 5. Gentiles. So what about these other people? Genesis 10, 6 through 21, I believe it is, talks about another son. And his name is Ham. Remember, Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. It says that the sons of Ham is Cush, Mizraim, Put, Canaan. The sons of Cush, Seba. These are all African nations, brothers and sisters. And then you read all the way down to verse 21, and it says, unto Shem, which is the one we just read, also the father of all the children of Eber. Verse 20. These are the sons of Ham, after their families, after their tongues, in their countries, and in their nations. So we know that the seed of Ham, they're African people. These are your Egyptians. These are your Canaanites. These are the people that Moses went to and said, let my people go. These are the people that Joseph went to and interpreted the dream of the Pharaoh. They are not the chosen people of God, brothers and sisters. They are descendants of Ham, but are of African descent. So we got 2 eliminations. If you're the seed of Japheth, you're not an Israelite. If you're of the seed of Ham, then you're not an Israelite. But now, how does that factor into what we've been told? Because we've been told that if you're not a Jew, you're a Gentile. Well, we just read and found out if you're not a Jew, you could be a descendant of Ham. You could be of African descent. Or you could be a Gentile, a descendant of Japhet. So no, brothers and sisters, that terminology is not even true. That if you're not a Jew, you're a Gentile. No, if you're not a Jew, you could be a Gentile or you could be a descendant of a Hamite. The people who are of the countries of Africa. Okay? So now let's go ahead and get down to the nitty gritty. Now let's find out, brothers and sisters, where the chosen people of God came from, out of which son. Let's go ahead and read at verse 21.
Unto Shem also the children, say 21. Unto Shem also the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth, the elder, even to him were children born.
So, brothers and sisters, we read about two of the sons. Now we get into the son that the Israelites came from. Okay? Where Abraham came from. Now we're getting into our research. Now we're getting into our knowledge, brothers and sisters. So now, brother Joe, we read 21. Let's go ahead and read 22 through 25. I want to point something out real quick. Well, actually, 22 through 24. Go ahead.
The children of Shem, Elim, Ashur, and
Arphaxad,
and Lud, and Abel.
Now stop right there. Stop right there. The children of Shem, Elam, and Asser, and Arphaxad, and Lud, and Aram. I want you to check something out real quick. Now let's go into the New Testament, to the genealogy of Jesus, because Jesus, brothers and sisters, was a seed of Abraham. So somewhere during the seed of Abraham, going back, we should run into one of these names. Shem, Elam, Asser, Arphaxad, and Lud, and Aram. So let's go back to Luke, the 3rd chapter, and let's go back through this genealogy of Jesus and find out, brothers and sisters, and we can run into one of these names that said that was a descendant of Shem. And if we can find one of these names in the genealogy of Jesus, then we know that we are dealing with the son that the children of Israel came from. One of the sons between Shem, Ham, and Japhet. We know it wasn't Ham. We know it wasn't Japhet, because Japhet is where the Gentiles come from. But let's go ahead and prove, there's only one son left, but let's go ahead and prove our ministry. Luke, the 3rd chapter, brother Joe, and let's go ahead and start at verse 23. Luke 3 and 23.
And Jesus himself began to be about 30 years of age, being as was supported the son of Joseph, which was the son of David.
So, brothers and sisters, now it's going back and giving you the whole genealogy of Jesus, who his father was, who his father's fathers was, who his father's father's father was, all the way down to the book of Adam. But what we're interested in this particular scripture right here is to find out if one of the sons of Shem was directly connected as a descendant of Jesus's. So now let's go ahead and read, for the sake of time, verse 34. Verse 34.
Which was the son of Jacob, which was the son of Isaac, which was the son of Abraham, which was the son of Perez, which was the son of Nor.
So now we found out two things. We know who Abraham's father was. His father's name was Terah, and his grandfather's name was Nahor. Okay? We know that now because it's the genealogy here. But we're about to find out something else real quick. Now, we talked about the descendants of Shem. We know that Abraham's son, Jacob, his name was turned into Israel, from Jacob to Israel. Israel did not exist until Jacob was born. Jacob's name was changed to Israel. Jacob had 12 sons and 1 daughter. We'll read all that to you in a moment. But now we still got to find out at least one of the names that was a descendant of Shem that we just read in Genesis, the 10th chapter. So let's go ahead and read verse 36, Luke 3 and 36.
Which was the son of Canaan, which was the son of Ephraim.
Now let's stop right there. Let's stop right there. Which was the son of Canaan, which was the son of Arphaxad. Okay? Arphaxad. Now let's go ahead back to Genesis, the 10th chapter, real quick. And let's go ahead and see if we can identify that name one more time and tell you exactly where it's at. So Arphaxad was mentioned in Luke 3 and 36. And we're going to show you where it's also mentioned in Genesis, the 10th chapter. Okay, so Genesis 10th chapter, let's go ahead and read 22 verse again. Genesis 10 and 22. Now this is up under the sons of Shem. Go ahead, my brother.
The children of Shem, Elam, Asher, and Arphaxad.
Now stop right there. So now we know, without a shadow of a doubt, that if you are a descendant of Shem, brothers and sisters, if you are a descendant of Shem, you fall into that genealogy. But again, Israel did not start until Jacob was born. It was Jacob who God changed his name to Israel, brothers and sisters. So starting at Jacob started the Israelite people and nation, brothers and sisters. And of course, Jacob had a daddy, Abraham. Abraham had a daddy. You know what I'm saying? And his daddy had a daddy. But I'm just showing you where the start of Israel came. Now, for the sake of time, let's go ahead and read Mark the 13th chapter. Mark the 13th chapter. And we're going to start this off at verse 2. Because, see, we got to find out where the children of Israel are today, brothers and sisters. That's the big question. Did they just disappear somewhere off the face of the planet Earth? Let me see. Mark 13. Mark 13 and verse 2. Mark 13 and verse 2. Go ahead, my brother.
And Jesus answered, said unto him, seest thou these great buildings?
You know what? I'm sorry, Brother Joe. You know what I want to do? Let's start at verse 1 and then go down to verse 2. Because I don't want people to miss this. This is very important. Go ahead, my brother.
And as he went out to the temple, one of his disciples said unto him, Master, see what manner of stones and what buildings are here. And Jesus answering, saying unto him, seest thou these great buildings? There shall not be left one stone upon another that shall not be torn down.
So wait a minute. Jesus is looking at this temple, this great big temple of Solomon, brothers and sisters. This great big temple that had been built. Solomon, David, these temples. So brothers and sisters, he's looking at this temple. Everybody's looking at amazement because this is their house of worship. This has been with them as long as they've been alive. They can't imagine that it won't be there one day. But Jesus is telling them, he's prophesying right now that this is going to take place. That out of all of these stones, there should not be one left on top of another. So now we're going to go ahead a little bit further and let's find out about what happened that made this temple get destroyed. Now, brothers and sisters, here's something very interesting. And this is what is not talked about also in a lot of supposed to be biblical-based churches. Now, 70 AD, something very interesting happened. There was a Roman-Jewish war, okay? A Roman Jewish war that happened in 70 AD. Let's go ahead and read about it. And you can type it in your Google search engine a little bit later, but let's go ahead and read about it a little bit. It says, and this is ancient Jewish history that I'm reading. The Jews' great revolt against Rome in 66 CE led to one of the greatest catastrophes in Jewish life, and in retrospect, might well have been a terrible mistake. No one could argue with the Jews for wanting to throw off Roman rule. Since the Romans had first occupied Israel in 63 BCE, their rule had grown more and more numerous. From almost the beginning of the Common Era, Judea was ruled by Roman rulers, whose chief responsibility was to collect and deliver an annual tax to the empire. Now remember, the reason why Joseph and Mary came into Bethlehem is because they had started taxing that particular year, brothers and sisters. So I want you to get a chart and a timetable here as to what we're talking about. Now, it says right here, the scene was now set for the revolt's final catastrophe. Outside Jerusalem, Roman troops prepared to besiege the city. Inside the city, the Jews were engaged in a suicidal civil war. Now, here's the key, brothers and sisters. It's saying that the Jews were fighting amongst themselves. But I want to show you in the Bible how this is not true. There was an imposter people who were claiming to be Jews, brothers and sisters. But remember, Jacob had a twin brother named Esau. And Esau, brothers and sisters, always wanted to take the claim of the birthright after he had sold it, brothers and sisters, and God had passed him over. But let's go ahead and continue reading. It says that they were engaged in a suicidal civil war. In later generations, the rabbis I can't pronounce that word, declared that the revolt's failure and the temple destruction was due not to Roman military superiority, but to hatred amongst the Jews. Okay, now we're going somewhere. Now, I want you to keep that in mind, that they said that it was Jews that was fighting against Jews, that there was a civil war. But I want to show you that there's an imposter people who are claiming to be Jews, but they are not Jews, brothers and sisters. They are of the seed of Esau, and their original name is called Edomites. Keep that in mind. We always hear the name Israel today, but do you ever hear the name Esau anymore? Well, if Israel is still somewhere on the planet, then where is Esau? As far as the name is concerned. We're going to show you who Esau is in a moment also as well. But stay tuned. Let's get to the point where Israel were actually kicked out of Jerusalem. During the summer of 70 AD, the Romans breached the walls of Jerusalem and initiated an orgy of violence and destruction. Shortly after, they destroyed the second temple. Did we just read where Jesus said, "There shall not be one stone on top of another"? He was predicting and prophesying what would be happening here in 70 AD when the Romans came in. This was the final and most devastating Roman blow against Judea. It is estimated that as many as 1 million Jews died, or we could say was killed, in the Great Revolt against Rome. When people today ask of the almost 2,000 year span of Jewish homelessness and exile, they are dating it from the failure of the revolt and the destruction of the temple. Indeed, the Great Revolt of 66 through 70, followed some 60 years later by the Bar Kokhba revolt, were the greatest calamities in Jewish history prior to the Holocaust. In addition to the more than 1 million Jews killed, these failed rebellions led to the total loss of Jewish political authority in Israel until 1948. But see, there's some lies mixed with some truth right here. See, in 1948, they gave a piece of land in the Middle East to a people who were so-called Jews, brothers and sisters, who came up out of Europe, who was a part of that seed called Japhet. And we know that they are Gentiles, brothers and sisters. But now we read that there was a great civil war, Jews fighting Jews, but we know that they were not Jews. They were Edomites, or descendants of Esau, the twin brother of Jacob, that was fighting against the original seed, which is the Israelites. But let's see if we can read that somewhere in the Bible. Let's go to the book of Obadiah and see if we can read about these so-called Jews who are actually Edomites, or descendants of Esau, the twin brother of Jacob, the red and hairy one. If we can read somewhere about something that they did to our people, the original Israelites, back in 70 AD, brothers and sisters, back in 70 AD. Let's go ahead and read it. Book of Obadiah. Let's start at verse 6, chapter 1. Let's start at verse 6. Book of Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 6. Go ahead.
How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things thought up?
So, brothers and sisters, the question is being asked, how are the things of Esau searched out? The way we're doing it today, brothers and sisters. We got the Bible on one end. We got the internet on one end. We got the history on another end. So we're searching these things out. And that was the question. How are the things of Esau searched out? And then it says, how are the hidden things sought up? See, they've been telling this lie for so long that this history has been hidden up until now, brothers and sisters. But we got them. We got them. See, one day truth and a lie went swimming together. And when lie saw truth in the water naked, lie went and put on truth's clothing. And now what we got here tonight on the Bible Show Truth Hour is the naked truth. And I'm catching up with that well-dressed lie. Let's go ahead and read at verse 7, brother Joe. Obadiah chapter 1, verse 7.
And all the men of thy
Confederacy
confederacies have brought thee even into the borders of men that were at peace with thee, have deceived thee, prevail against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is no understanding in him.
So we were in peace, brothers and sisters, but these Edomites rose up, who were pretending to be Jews, who were looked at being Jews, brothers and sisters, and caused confusion amongst our people. Let's go ahead and read at verse 8. Obadiah chapter 1, verse 8.
Shall I not in that day, saith the Lord, even destroy the wise men out of Edom, and understanding out of the mount of Esau?
Continue.
And thy mighty men, O Timon, shall be dismayed to the end that every one of the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter.
So the Lord is predicting right here, brothers and sisters. I didn't say it. I'm just reading it to you. The Lord is saying, I am so pissed off at you for what you did to my people, that I'm going to hand down a judgment on you and a reward on you that's going to leave your whole branch decimated. That's something, boy. That's something. Let's go ahead and read why he's going to do this to these people who are taking the identity of his people. Esau, who's pretending to be Israel. Let's read why he say he's going to do this to these people. Obadiah chapter 1, verse 10.
For thy violence against thy brother, Jacob's shame shall cover thee.
So hold on, wait a minute. His violence against who?
Thy brother, Jacob.
So Jacob's name was changed to Israel. So for Esau, the violence that he committed against us, brothers and sisters, while the Romans were planning to come in, God said, I'm going to slaughter you for what you did to your brother Jacob. Was this the first time a brother turned against his brother? Well, you can go back to the Garden of Eden and read the story about Cain and Abel. It's just two brothers on two totally different levels. But let's go ahead and continue. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall come over you. Go ahead.
In the day that
No, brother. Finish reading that after it says, shame shall come over you.
shame shall come over thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever.
Ain't no coming back from that, brothers and sisters. When the Lord said you're going to be cut off forever, and in the previous verse, he said you're going to be cut off by slaughter. Now, he's saying you're going to be cut off in that verse, but the verse before that is telling you how you're going to be cut off. He said by slaughter. You ever read the verse in the Bible? It says when Jesus comes back, he's going to come with a sword dripping with blood. See, he left as a lamb, but he's coming back as a lion, brothers and sisters. Let's go ahead and find out what he did, Esau did to us that pissed God off so much that he said, I'm going to cut you off by slaughter. Obadiah chapter 1, verse 11.
In the day that you stoodest on the other side, in the day that the stranger carried away captive his force, and foreigners entered into his gates and cast lots upon Jerusalem, even you wasn't as one of them.
So he's saying, Esau, you was just as bad as the Romans were. He said you stood on the other side in the day that the strangers carried away captives, slaves, brothers and sisters. Esau, you stood in the way. You stood and watched the Romans did what they did. Now, that was just some of them who watched, but some of them actually participated. And that's why he said you were just as bad as the Romans. Let's go ahead and at verse 12 and find out what else they did that had the Lord so angry. Obadiah chapter 1, verse 12. Let's read about these Edomites who are over in the land today that's called Jerusalem. We're talking about Benjamin Netanyahu and the others that's in the news almost every day. Talking about that they want the United States to protect them, brothers and sisters. These are the same ones who helped the Romans come in and invade Israel and led us into a life of captivity. Let's go ahead and read at verse 13. I'm sorry, verse 12.
But you should have not have looked on the day of thy brother, in the day that he became a stranger. Neither should you have rejoiced over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction. Neither should you have spoken proudly in the day of distress.
Now let's find out what else they did. Obadiah chapter 1, verse 13.
You should have not entered into the gates of my people in the day of their
calamity.
You should have looked on their affliction in the day of their calamity, nor have laid hands on their substance in the day of their calamity.
So they came in, brothers and sisters, all of our precious artifacts or whatever the case may be, they put their hands